this slowdown, this downturn caused by the COVID pandemic is likely to affect diverse managers disproportionately, particularly when it comes to raising capital, given they generally represent newer firms, have fewer institutional investors. When you think about that group of managers, do you have any particular advice for them as they are out there today attempting to raise capital in an environment that, quite frankly, is challenging?
Yeah, and part of what I'm going to say is not going to be novel. So, disclaimer, warning: it's not novel. But one, stick to your knitting. Remain disciplined. Do not fall to the temptation to try to migrate your strategy to where allocators are deploying capital, because even if you have a smaller pool of capital that you stick to your knitting and you're disciplined about and you generate the returns, you will survive this period of time and you will live to fight another day with greater prosperity. But so it's really about not migrating, but staying to and being disciplined, because managers are rewarded for discipline in many ways. Discipline on investment strategy, discipline with how much capital you deploy in terms of the opportunity set. And so that would be my biggest advice. And so that's on the manager side. For my peers in the country, yes, my word of advice would be, in addition to everything I've already said about looking at the numbers and focusing on this group, because there is a disparity between how similarly situated investment firms, whether it's a star manager or team coming out of a premier shop, and how they're viewed at fund launch as compared to others, right? There is a racial disparity that exists that is not explained simply by the resume or the experience. We need to be cognizant of that and pay attention. Now, there is also with newer managers, there's a structural challenge for large institutional investors like Connecticut and others, which is the amount of concentration that we can have in a fund. So I've had conversations with peers who do not use fund of funds, and I understand some of the arguments against it, double layer fees and so forth. I get it, but a few things. One, you have to look at all in terms of fees relative to performance.
It really is net, right? Correct.
Net, right? That's your real number.
That's your real number.
Two, if you don't, and I had this conversation recently with a fellow treasurer, if you don't utilize these structures, you are structurally barring an entire group of potential managers, because diverse managers tend to oftentimes take longer to raise larger pools of capital. You have all of those issues, and just like the pandemic is displaying what we've known, many of us, for a long time, of significant health disparities.
Yeah.
Just like the 8 minutes and 46 seconds of George Floyd's death has shown a lot of Americans what we've known for a long time, which is there is a disparity with how policing often engages with Black men, but Blacks generally.
Yes.
There is that disparity. So at this time, for managers, it's like people like me and others, we have to move the nation. We have to move our peer group to a more equitable viewpoint on the merits, and to be able to see that value. And Eddie Brown, recently wrote a very powerful opinion piece, which underscored that difference that I'm talking about with, in his case, a Black manager coming out of a top firm, and how that's treated differently. And so, but with all of that going on, it would be, I believe, a grave mistake for managers to not stay disciplined to their strategy and what they do best, even if it means they raise less capital right now and deploy less.